Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Stop Playing podcast. It's your favorite homegirl, Coriel, here to encourage you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. You already know I'm bringing you the information and the conversations to help you make the money and get the honey. You can have it all as long as you are willing to work. And on today's episode, the doctor is in. I have the opportunity to introduce you to Dr. LJ. But as y'all know, I always love to give my guests the opportunity to introduce themselves. So, Dr. LJ, please give yourself a proper introduction to the Girl Stop Playing audience.
Thank you. I just want to say right off the bat, I'm loving your energy. Like I'm already feeling inspired, and this is what we need, right? We need to stop playing with our health. I am Dr. LJ, the holistic hormone expert, and I'm everything hormones, functional medicine. Pretty much if you have a uterus, I'm your girl. Took me 16 years to be properly diagnosed with endometriosis. So that was 16 years of suffering, pain, walking around saying things like, I hate my body, I hate my doctors, I hate my uterus, I just want to rip it out. And at the end of the day, it was realizing that I was not broken. There was nothing wrong with me. I had a diagnosis that was harder to get. I had doctors that were not listening. Also as a brown and black woman, dealing with all disparities, like those were the things I was up against. That is what I do. I love to educate, empower, and motivate. We were talking before we got on. I talk about everything, good, bad, or indifferent. Nothing's TMI, because all of the things that I share with you on my podcast, on these episodes, everything that I do is because it was information that Dr. LJ needed at 20 years old. 25, 35. So many things have happened in my world. God has brought me a long way in my healing journey, and I'm just excited to delve into everything.
Well, I'm very excited to have you. I feel this whole podcast and my platform in general is very spirit led. I am very much a God girl. And so it is just crazy and wild how these conversations just have led me into spiritual conversations, health conversations, and all around what that means. It all kind of fits to me under this wellness umbrella, this idea that we can live well. And part of living well is not just being performative, which a lot of Black women were raised to do, perform, achieve, get the degree, make all the money, do the things. But if our mental, physical, emotional health are not in alignment with those other achievements, then we are not truly going to be able to live well. And a lot of these physical ailments and things that we're dealing with really do affect our mental health. And then, you wonder why you have all these things, but you're still not happy. So I would love to start with just a definition of what endometriosis is. And I want to kind of go from there, because I think a lot of the things we're going to talk about are things that we see a lot on the internet, but we got the doctor in the building. So I want some real for real definition. So let's start with endometriosis, what it is and what women, specifically Black millennial women, need to know about it.
Absolutely. We love social media, but sometimes the social media streets can be very muddy, conflicting information. And especially when you're suffering, you just want to see and hear something that makes sense. But then sometimes it's just like, you don't know what's going on. So with endometriosis, I'm going to break it down. And some of you are like, supacala. I'm like, yeah, I know it's a long word. So endometriosis, but for short, you could say endo. So endometriosis is uterine-like tissue found outside of the uterus. So that's number one. I'm going to pause and rewind, because some of you, I just blew your mind, because you're like, oh no, my doctor said it was a period problem. Nope, it's cramping, it's bleeding. I do understand that's what illness may look like for you, but endometriosis is uterine-like tissue found outside of the uterus. It is chronic systemic inflammation throughout your entire body. It is not a gynecological disease. You are not broken. You don't have a rogue uterus. This isn't just a bad period taking you down. It is chronic systemic inflammation throughout your entire body. Now, it does have autoimmune-like factors. These lesions that are outside of your uterus can be anywhere. And I want to unpack that a little more. And I'm going to go back and backpedal, because it's a lot to stack. But when I say the lesions are outside of your uterus, that means everything is fair game. I've had sinus surgeries. I've had endometriosis lesions removed from my sinuses. People have had endometriosis lesions removed from their shoulder, their knee, their back, their bladder. So think about your uterus, and then anything inside of your body is fair game for endometriosis. These lesions, they will bleed, they will create their own hormones, which is why birth control doesn't really, or the pill doesn't turn everything off. So let me back all that up, because it's a lot, right? Endometriosis, uterine-like tissue found outside of the uterus, chronic systemic inflammation throughout the entire body. These lesions that are outside of the uterus can be anywhere in the body. There can be also that hormonal impact. It is going to impact your cycle, but it is not a period problem. You are not broken. You don't have a rogue uterus. And yes, those lesions are creating their own hormones, which is causing metabolic chaos throughout your entire body.
And because of the opportunity for this to be found anywhere, is that why so many women are misdiagnosed? And is that why there is so much misinformation out there?
Yes, I'm going to take that one and then I'm going to add a little on, right? So, yes, it's really hard to diagnose because the symptoms can look different. You could line 10 people up right now and I could be number 10, maybe you're number 2. 10 different diagnoses of endometriosis. We're all going to have different symptoms. It's all going to look different. Race, creed, color, how much money is in your bank account or the lack thereof does not matter, right? Everyone can be impacted by it. However, it looks so different. You're going to have the disparities when it comes to, religious preferences, because some people, don't really participate in certain treatments. You've got doctors that are gaslighting, that are dismissive. And then we're going to add on the double whammy icing, right? Brown and Black community. They're being trained in medical school that we can just keep on keeping on, that, the pain is not real. They think you're pain pill seeking. So all of those things, I literally just gave myself chills because I'm like, I've been there, right? Like you're begging and pleading. So most of the time it takes people 8 to 10 years to be properly diagnosed with endometriosis. It took me 16. That was 16 years of bleeding, cramping. I thought every time I had a period, my nose would bleed. I didn't know that having a menstrual cycle once a month didn't mean I was going to be bleeding and cramping and bleeding out of every orifice in my body, right? I'm talking about rectal bleeding, my vag is on fire, I'm over here in pain, my nose is bleeding. Like I thought that was normal. I was probably 20, 21 years old before someone literally educated me to where a period doesn't mean that your nose is bleeding. Right? Like I did not know that. So you've got a lot of disparities, a lot of miseducation. And then you also have, as brown and Black women, we're taught to be strong, right? Any Black woman knows, right? At the age of 3, we are told several things. We are strong Black women. We can do bad on our own. You guys know all the sayings, baby. We got them down pat, locked and loaded. We're ready. However, that also made us push our own feelings back, right? Push our pain to the side. So most of the time when you're having issues, you're putting it back, and then it takes you down and you're in the emergency room, you're running to urgent care. You're not going to the doctor because you're not trusting. So, you're waiting 10, 15 years, you get in there and the endometriosis has done so much to your body. It can be super, super debilitating.
This to me is the importance of and the beauty of podcasts and social media and even reality TV, where you can truly see what the real things that people are going through, because without these resources, without access to conversations like this with women who have been through these things, you could just be sitting up in your bathroom every month thinking that you're crazy. And to take it a step further, you could even be going to the doctor, asking for help, crying your heart out on the internet, searching for things with no answer, no solution, or one solution and it's surgery, or one solution and it's, this prescription that you'll be on for the rest of your life. And that thankfully has never been my story, but I cannot imagine how suffocating that would probably feel for you to really feel like your life is in someone else's hands, or your life depends on this pill, or your life depends on this procedure, or everybody's just clueless and they're just telling you you're making this up, or this can't be what you're experiencing. How can Black women advocate for themselves more? Because usually the advocacy conversation comes up in pregnancy, and if you ain't never had to advocate for yourself, baby, wait until you have a baby. Okay, wait until you have a baby. But beyond that, we got to be willing to advocate for ourselves, because we are being misdiagnosed and at an alarming rate. So what are some ways that we can start to stand up for ourselves and stand up to the authority figure that we see the doctor being, so that we can save ourselves?
Right. Number 1, trust yourself, trust your body. You. I don't care that they wear the white coat, that they've got all the degrees, they have the amazing office, you've seen them in Time magazine, they're all over the television. You. Trust yourself, trust your gut instinct. If you feel like something is not right, then you need to explain that to your physician. But here's the deal. And I recently had a physician, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there, that was literally so upset with me during an appointment. She hung up on my telemedicine appointment, like just hung up in my face. So we will have to be continued on that situation. But this is where doctors are getting, where they're so frustrated, they don't know what to do. And you know what? You have to keep going to other places. You have to keep telling your story. You have to keep going till you find a doctor that will listen, and not just listen and write your prescription and send you on your way. One that's willing to sit down and actually listen to your story and bring viable solutions. And I want to go back to something you said earlier, a pill or a procedure. Let's be honest. In the brown and black community, a lot of the option really is, let's just have a hysterectomy. Let's just yank out your womb. Two things on that. A hysterectomy is not going to remove endometriosis from your body. Remember, I said it is uterine-like tissue outside of the uterus. So taking out all your lady parts is not going to cure or correct the diagnosis. Secondly, more importantly, and I should have made this one number one, more importantly, if we're just snatching out the womb of every brown and black woman, I need us to kind of take it on up to the next level and let the math start mathing, right? Like, that is not okay. That's talking about generations, right? I think sometimes we just want the immediate end all be all, but if we're only being offered that solution, you're in debilitating pain. I've been there. It sounds real appealing, right? Until I learned that it was like, no, a hysterectomy is not going to remove all of those things from my body. It is not going to stop the metabolic chaos. So advocate for yourself. Now, when it comes to advocating for the self, I'm going to give you guys the tea. I do have a journal that's coming out later this year that's going to have this a little more mapped out. Some of the things that we could do better is, when we make an appointment, by advocating for yourself, make sure it's an actual appointment. And I know some of you were like, this is like the dumbest tip, but work with me here. Do you have an actual appointment, or do you have a fit me in where I can get me in? She keeps calling. We just want to hurry up and get her in here so we can get rid of her. Do you actually have a 10:15, or did they squeeze you in and tell you to come at 10:15 and they're actually seeing 8 people at 10:15? I don't care how good you are. You can't see 10 people at, 8 people at 10:15. Make sure you have an actual appointment. Ask for an extensive appointment. If you've been bleeding and cramping and suffering and you've been dealing with this for years, I talk really fast, but even me, I can't break all of my health down if I haven't been to the doctor in years in 7 minutes. What can they do in 7 minutes, right? So I'm going to go from both sides. Yes, advocating for yourself, you want to trauma dump and dump it all out in 7 minutes, but also as a practitioner, if I only have 7 minutes, like, there's not a lot I can do, right? So we need to set ourselves up for success. Make sure you actually have a real appointment, not a squeeze me in. Make sure that you're asking for an extensive appointment. Hey, I've been having issues for years. I'd like to examine and check out XYZ 1, 2, 3. Can I make sure I have 20 to 30 minutes with the provider? And then, yes, it is frustrating. I understand you're not the doctor, but come with your A game. Simple things like, oh, my period is painful. Okay. Yes, your period is painful, but all they're thinking is birth control of the month, and they're going to throw you a sample and keep it pushing, right? Or put you on Lupron to turn off your period so you stop complaining, and then they can get a big $8,000, $10,000 kickback. That's not really serving you. So it's more of, yes, my period is debilitating. I'm missing X amount of days of work. I'm having painful sex. I'm not able to take care of my children. I'm getting written up at work. Like, walk them through a day, walk them through a week, a month, 6 months of what your life actually looks like. And then also realize that it's not just talking about period health. How is your heart health? Are you having heart palpitations? Are you having hot sweats? Do you only poop once a week? Like, all of that information that you're just kind of like, it's no big deal. Bring all of that up to set yourself up for success. Because when you can bring that information, it stops them in their tracks. It's not just, oh, painful period, shut up and take birth control. It's more like, oh, well, she just told me she's missing 6 days of work a month. She's not able to take care of her family. She can't walk 3 days out of the month because of her cycle. That allows them to go further. And I know it's frustrating when you're in pain, but you need to provide that information. So I would start with those main tips, right? Having the journal, documenting how you feel, and really bringing that biggest information. But the thing I see typically when people start working with me, we didn't really have real appointments. They just squeezed us in because we were in pain. We were just able to kind of say all the problems, and then no solutions were brought. And then when we talk about the problems, it's just very generic. I've gained weight, I'm bloated. How, are you bloated to where it's painful? Or is it so bloated where you can't wear pants? Like, you just normalize the symptoms so much. Sometimes it's just easier to kind of type it all out. And when you bring that in, it is a game changer.
I think too, to your earlier point, most of us are not just sitting around talking about our periods, the pain, the symptoms. So my normal period, based on the chart of normal periods, is abnormal. But I don't know that because I'm not asking my homegirl or my sister or my mama about her period. So I don't even know these things to even be able to say, okay, well, something's wrong. I can compare it to my last period, but I can't compare it to the average number of period days or the, the level of period pain that I can be having. So again, these conversations are so important. Knowing your body and trusting your body is also super important. And I'm going to even take it a step further because I've talked about how I have Kaiser insurance and they've changed the policy to 5 years for pap smears. That's their recommendation. It went from 1 year to 3 years to now it's 5 years. And they will go ahead and, approve it and not ask any questions if you say, okay, I'm having a painful period or my period is heavy. So I'm even going to say, advocate for yourself, but be willing to, lie if you have to. If you got to say I'm having an abnormal, and this isn't Dr. LJ co-signing this is me saying, if you got to go in there and say that your period is heavy so that you can request extra testing or a pap smear because you feel like something is off and something is going on, do not allow somebody to tell you come back in 5 years. That is outrageous. And in that same vein, and we're going to come back to, what we can do and some, alternative practices and things like that. But you mentioned kickbacks. I have not had an opportunity to ask a medical professional to explain how this works. So of course we are not talking about Dr. LJ. I'm talking about all the other potential medical professionals out there who get kickbacks, who get these favors or whatever they get from pharmaceutical sales reps. Like I remember graduating college and everybody was a pharmaceutical sales rep and they were making buku dollars and it was like the thing to do, which got me to thinking, how does all of this work? So can you explain how that works and why all of the doctors just all of a sudden they're recommending this one thing?
Well, number one, I'm glad you didn't sweep me under the kickback rug. And number one and number two, I don't accept insurance and I am not in bed with pharmaceutical companies. Why? Because I bought the lie, tried the pharmaceuticals, and baby, I'm still waiting on the results that were promised 10, 15, 20 years ago. The biggest thing that opened my eyes to kickbacks is when I was diagnosed with endometriosis and I was suffering, I was cramping. There were days I could not walk. I was calling into work. I had to shut down my private practice and I was recommended to take Lupron. And I want you guys to do the research because I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to misquote numbers. But look, the doctor prescribed to me Lupron and I was desperate. So the whole turn off your period and your world will be a better place. I was like, sign me up. When can we get started? Got prescribed. Insurance didn't cover it. It's funny that you mentioned Kaiser because I had Kaiser Permanente at the moment. It was not covered. It was about, I was married at the time. I want to say 10 to 11 grand for the injection. It was a big deal. That's a lot of money. Number one, I don't know who sits around. Maybe it was just my budget at the time. I didn't have 11 grand sitting around for a monthly, quarterly prescription. That's, we had some money, but not that kind. So it was a lot of saving, a lot of taking money from this, robbing Peter to pay Paul, doing all these things, get the injection. And I'm bleeding, I'm cramping, like all my symptoms are worse. And then I start to do a little more research. And then I started to realize that there were kickbacks, right? Every time my doctor prescribed this, she got X amount of dollars. So this is why I kind of tell people now, sometimes when you're getting these pharmaceuticals, jokingly, but real talk, you're putting their kids through college. You're paying for their mortgage. And did I mention you still suffering? I mean, I just want to throw that out there. I do understand that sometimes these medications are helpful. They are needed, but there are kickbacks and there are people benefiting on the other end. Even if it's just a pharmaceutical company that's bringing in Chipotle and Chick-fil-A and whatever once a week. When these reps come in, they're showering them with all kinds of things. And I understand that, people are doing a job. I'm not coming against people if you're a pharmaceutical rep, but as a patient, we need to understand that sometimes these things are being prescribed. They are being pushed because they're on a contract. It has nothing to do with your quality of life. They don't care if you can pay your bills, right? I'm gonna just take it there. They don't care that you can't take care of your kids. They don't care that you're suffering. She needs to push X amount of prescriptions to meet this quota, to do this, that, and the other. I encourage you to do the research. There's research out there with prescriptions and doctors' names, especially in the endometriosis community. And it's like, Lupron, they paying pretty good. I'll even take it a little step further. During the scamdemic, aka COVID, all of a sudden everybody needed ketamine. Didn't we think that was, I thought it was a little odd that all of a sudden the answer for everyone was ketamine. Then I started to do the work, do the research. Yeah, I could see where that was the answer, because suddenly there was more incentives for prescriptions, incentives to providers, not coming against providers that have to write pharmaceuticals or that choose to. I know that sometimes they can be helpful in the healing journey. Sometimes you need that to bridge the gap, but you need to understand as a patient that if you're always going in and they're always pushing a medication, you're not really getting any results, or you're feeling like everyone's saying this, that, and the other, do the research. There's more behind it. And I'm going to drop it there because we could go a couple hours on that one, because I've even jumped on here and started pulling up the websites, and we don't want to do that today.
Listen, this is the thing. The rabbit hole goes deep, and it starts with, it can go all the way back to slavery, to the medical experimentation, we can literally go all the way back and trace the malpractice, trace the disparity against the Black community within medicine. And because of slavery, it did a number on us, but part of the lingering effect, in my opinion, is this reverence that we have for doctors, as if we have so much trust in them because we have been taught to believe that they truly have our best interest at heart, not that they are a business person. These doctors are running a business, and it is just mind-blowing. Somebody's head is going to explode by the thought of a doctor who you trust with your life basing their prescription on how much they're going to get paid on the back end.
Yeah.
Outrageous. It's crazy. You mentioned the alarming rate at which Black women are being recommended hysterectomies. If we start talking about, and I can go on and on, so I'm going to wrap this up in a bow, but if we start talking about this push for reproductive rights, that's really this push for abortions in the Black community. If we start looking at the number of abortion clinics, Planned Parenthood clinics in the Black community versus fertility clinics in Caucasian communities, if we really start digging and seeing what is the underlying root of all of this? Why is there, such a disadvantage seemingly in the Black community, knowing how valuable we truly are, knowing how valuable our actual bodies truly are? Y'all just take that and go down the rabbit hole. But circling back to the medical industry and insurance, one of the things that is just, this isn't even like a rabbit hole, this is something y'all can just call your insurance company and see, is the fact that insurance companies do not cover any type of holistic, natural, functional, alternative modalities. Like, none of these things are covered, but every prescription, every pill, all of these procedures, or not every, but majority of these procedures will be covered. But if you want to go get a sound bowl therapy, or if you want to go get acupuncture or even chiropractor, it's like, no, you're crazy. You got to pay for that yourself. So that's even a place where it's like, women want better, but damn, I can't even afford it. I can't even afford to heal or help myself.
Some insurance companies are opening up as far as like doing more physical therapy, and especially when it comes to womb health, but realizing that, okay, if my shoulder is bad, you're like, okay, but it's like, what if I need pelvic floor physical therapy? So I will give insurance some credit. I am starting to see less pushback. They're like, oh, you can't hold your bladder. Oh, you do have prolapse. Oh, your bladder is falling through. You do need to go to pelvic physical therapy versus regular physical therapy. There is some openings. I've seen a lot of people be prescribed, pelvic physical therapy, the chiropractor, acupuncture, but you are right. It's not the first line of defense. If I go in for pelvic pain or period pain, The first line is not going to be, hey, have you seen a pelvic floor physical therapist? Are you, decreasing your sugar? Possibly there's something going on with your gut health. It's going to be like, okay, well, what pill do you want? Do you want to shut your period off for a month? You want to shut her off for 3 months? You want to shut it off for a couple of years? You tell me. And I want you to realize that turning off your period is not going to stop the hormone issues. It's not going to stop. Your period is your fifth vital sign. If your period is acting a fool, real talk, it's just telling you that something else is going on. You're not broken, but it's letting you know something's offline. You need to support your hormones, your thyroid. You need to support your digestive health. So just sweeping it under the rug, right? That's the quickest way to get us out of the office and move to the next person. But overall, yes, insurance does not cover, and that's why we are cash pay only. Insurance doesn't cover a lot of the functional testing. I'll use hormone testing, for example. I love when people are like, hey, I want to advocate for myself. I went to my doctor. She did my hormone panel. But let's be honest. I want everyone to listen right now that's listening to this to stop. How many of you have had blood work and you look okay on blood work and they're not real sure why you're still coming? Because you're like, I look amazing on paper, but I feel like I've just been hit by a bus every morning. I look amazing on paper, but I poop twice a week. I'm bloated and I can't remember my kids' names half the time because I'm so stressed out and I have a lot of brain fog. But you look good on paper because these insurance ranges are like this. Functional medicine, we tighten them up like this. But when it comes to hormones on blood work, that is not the optimal way for you to metabolize and really look at how your body is working. So when you look at hormones on blood work, it's just, these are your levels. Okay, LJ falls in the ranges of, a 45-year-old woman living in Scottsdale, Arizona, a Black woman. Okay, she's good. But what I look at as far as functional medicine, which is what your insurance is not going to cover, is where are your hormones at? How do you metabolize them? Are they being pushed down the correct pathway, right? And does your body know what to do with the hormones? Those are the things you need to know. I don't care that your estrogen falls within a range that LabCorp said was okay for a sick society, because most people are walking around sick. I'm not trying to be sick. I'm over here trying to be healthy and thrive, managing chronic illnesses. I want to excel and elevate. So we need to know where your hormones are going. A lot of people are managing issues with perfect hormones on paper, but all your hormones are going down the wrong pathway. That's why you're growing fibroids, wrapping toxins and hormones together. That's why you're having PMS, PMDD, all of these things that are growing or going wrong, is because your hormones that are good on paper, when I do the real work, they're going down the wrong pathway and literally feeding disease. So I know it's frustrating, right? And you got to do what you got to do. You got to save the money, a little less DoorDash, a little less Instacart. I don't know what you got to do, but I recommend that you save up and do the functional testing, because that's what's actually going to help you function. And I think we could go on and on and on about how insurance isn't paying for it. Now, some people are getting their insurance to really come in with HSA, HRA, or FSA, but it truly depends. But overall, if you called Kaiser right now, I'm not sure that they would pay for your Dutch test. I mean, if they do, let me know. I've not heard that. But there's different ways to look at it, but it can be really just your responsibility. It's advocating for yourself and then realizing that conventional medicine, I should add this, is really great for an acute illness. If someone's in a car accident, heaven forbid, you fall down the stairs, break your arm, I think the ER, emergency urgent care, is perfect for you, right? You need to get in, you need to get the bone set, you need to get the cast, you need the physical therapy. Many of you, probably all of you, I'm going to jump out on a limb, probably 99.8% of you listening, you're not in an acute situation. You're managing a chronic illness, something that is there 24/7, 365. That's not for conventional medicine. They're not set up for that. You have to come over to holistic health. You have to come to functional medicine, because you need to be able to function managing these chronic illnesses. And I think once we kind of delineate conventional, acute versus functional, I need to show up in my life and with my family every day. That also puts our mind at ease that we've been putting our trust into a system that's for acute, when in all honesty, you're managing PCOS, endometriosis, IBS, gastritis. Those are chronic illnesses, a sluggish thyroid. God is good, and yes, miracles can happen, but until you put the work in, that thyroid is going to need your support every day. So just relying on a pill for an acute situation, that's not going to be helpful for a thyroid, diagnosis that could be there for the next 20 or 30 years.
It's literally the foundation of the medical system. When I worked as a pharmacy tech and I would see little old ladies coming in there with that $800 bill every single month for something that they were never going to be cured with, something they were never going to be able to get off of, that was definitely, that aha moment of healing is not the goal. The goal is just management. All of this is just management. How can I
Mhm.
charge you to manage this pain? And the other thing that is not ever included in traditional Western medicine is lifestyle. That's never brought into the conversation, and nutrition. And it's truly because these doctors just don't know. They are not studying the link, and most of them unfortunately don't go above and beyond the book, what the book tells them. I've had some really amazing, seemingly amazing, nurse practitioners and doctors, specifically for my kids, who seem to be very trustworthy until I asked them a question I already knew the answer to, and they answered me the wrong way, and I'm like, can't really trust you. And so for people who don't want to put their trust into doctors that are going to recommend, Pedialyte for a kid when Pedialyte has red dye in it, or, I've literally had doctors recommend things for me that are on a current recall list, that are currently being sued in a class action lawsuit. And these doctors, it's just crazy. But for us, people who want to be in control without having to rely on a doctor, what are some lifestyle and nutritional changes or adjustments that we can start making, because our doctor is not going to tell us to do that?
This is going to sound so basic, and don't tune out after I say it. We need to hydrate. I don't know how many messages I get in my DMs on Instagram. I had someone literally tell me 2 days ago she doesn't think of water as a what did she say? She didn't think of as water as something that was hydrating. She didn't really think of water of having any importance. I'm sorry, but if you're doubled over in pain and you have chronic inflammation and swollen lymph nodes, water is what your body is, you need 70 to 80% water. You need water to flush and cleanse. It's like putting a bunch of stuff in a garbage disposal in your sink, not turning the water on and not pushing the button and wondering why the food never. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. So we need to hydrate our bodies. A lot of us, especially in the summer, right? It's hot here in Arizona. It's like 111. Like, baby, the heat is heating. It is hot out here. You need water. You need electrolytes. Sometimes we want that quick fix, that Amazon deal, that one supplement that's going to change the world. Yet we don't want to do the basics. So starting very basic, hydrating your body before you knock back your Starbies and your green tea and your all the fun stuff, the holistic, stuff that you want to do. Grab some water. If you want to elevate the water, add some lemon. You can do essential oils, lemon oil. I personally use doTERRA because that's one that I know I can actually ingest. I'm not putting the now oil in there, baby. That's now is out. Now needs to end. Now is not now. You need to be using a better oil, or even grab a few organic lemons, right? Level 1, just regular water. Level 2, add in some sea salt, add in some Himalayan salt to actually remineralize your body, because you already stressed out, right? You need minerals. When you're stressed, you're just peeing and pooping out minerals. You're sweating them out. You're breathing them out. Bring those minerals back in. And then if you want to start detoxing without spending $200 on a detox protocol, which I do not recommend for most of you because you're not hydrated, you're not pooping, you're not sweating, you're not doing the basics, grab some lemons. Put the organic lemon in there, warm lemon water, get those bowels going where you need to be, right? Very, very basic. So once you start to hydrate, next, I know we want to jump to how do we balance the cortisol to get rid of the cortisol belly? How do I snatch my waist? Let's calm her down. How do we balance our blood sugar? Some of y'all right now, it is 3:00, and baby, if you don't get that coffee, that caffeine, that chocolate, you about to cuss out everybody in the office. You may have already acted a fool. Some of y'all are one write-up away from losing your job because your blood sugar is doing the most. Balance your blood sugar. Stop chasing the number on the scale. Stop chasing, trying to get, I don't know who this is for. You still trying to fit in the cheerleading, uniform from when you were 17 years old. Get over it. You're 40 now. You're an adult. We are not basing our health. And I did a whole podcast episode on this. Are you trying to lose weight, or are you trying to be healthy? That's two different things. Chasing an aesthetic and chasing health and wellness, two different things. And when you're going for health and wellness, you're really not chasing. You're living a lifestyle. But going back, balance your blood sugar. Meals that have proteins, fat and carb. Stop trying to use all these apps and get mad when you have ate over 1,200 calories. You're a full grown ass adult. I'm sorry. You need more. Actually, I'm not sorry. You need more than 1,200 calories. Stop restricting. Stop doing all that. And then your blood sugar's up and down, up and down. You're trying to lose 15 pounds. And I'm telling you right now, every time you're at the office, shake, rattling, and rolling, and you're all nervous and jittery from your coffee and your hand shaking because your blood sugar, you literally just raise your cortisol up to your hormones and you won't lose an ounce. I can tell you right now, you're living on 1,200 calories and probably gaining weight every day, every week because your body is suffering. Hydrate your body, balance your blood sugar, stop skipping meals, stop bringing in these diet pills and metabolism boosters and all of that. Go back to the basics, right? Once you do that, that's when you need to decide, hey, is this giving me the foundation I need? Now, is it time to support my liver? Is it now time to put in some work, hire a coach, work with my doctor on getting my period better? Is it time now to address, my back that's always hurting? But before you try to start, doing a supplement for every symptom, it's the foundation, right? So we're hydrating, we're making sure that we're supporting our body with minerals, we're balancing the blood sugar. Then once we've done that, then we can step up to cortisol, which I know everyone's big on right now. They want the moon face, they want to lose the weight, they wanted this, they wanted that, they want the libido. Where will all of that come from without water, minerals, and nutrition? You don't have a good solid foundation, you're always going to be running in the hamster wheel, right? Stop the hamster wheel, get that foundation. Once you've got that down pat and you're like, I need more, that's when you find someone, you find a practitioner, you keep listening to this podcast, grabbing a tool. Every time you listen to the podcast, right? You drop a tool in the toolbox. And then sometimes you get to where you're like, hey, I do need something extra. Many just don't have the foundation.
So stop all the TikTok trends and take a sip of water, sis. That is so true. That the rabbit hole related to this that I've recently been down is gut health, and me learning that I can take every supplement in my medicine cabinet, but if my gut is not properly digesting these things, then I'm really just wasting my money on these expensive ass supplements. So
yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Let's stop wasting our time and our money and just we're hustling backwards. It's like we're trying to put the cart before the horse. Like I want all of the results and then I'll do the work, later. And that is just not how it works. So on your podcast, it's the Holistic Endo Expert podcast, right?
Yes.
There was an episode where you talked about explants.
Yes.
Tell the people about it, please.
Let's just go on in it, right? I give all the tea. So 8 years ago, I got breast implants. And I will say, if I could go, well, it wasn't 8 years ago. I guess it's been 10 now. Long story short, I did an episode about removing my breast implants. And so I usually say this at the beginning of every podcast, but this is the time to say it now, right? I don't come from the high horse. So there are many times where people are in natural health and they're like, oh my gosh, I've just been living in the hills. I've been organic since it, started. I've never, I don't have Wi-Fi. I don't have this. No, I was doing all the things wrong. I was taking birth control, had to get rid of that. I turned off my hormones, had to get rid of that. Went into medically induced menopause. Your girl grabbed some breast implants because I was going to be living my best sexy life. And then, 8 years later, I was like, hold up. I mean, literally, it was like Throat Punch Thursday. God was like, wake up. I will never forget it. I went onto Facebook and a fitness person that I worked with, we'd done a lot of work together. She was talking about removing her breast implants. And I was like, is that even a thing? Like, when I got them, I was told they'd last forever. And let me tell you, the symptoms were forever. The forever chemicals were forever. And so as I looked at Sarah, I will never forget. I looked at her photo and then I looked after and I'm like, this was before AI, because AI got us kind of jacked up right now. This was the real deal. And I'm like, this isn't the same person. Like, this is not the Sarah. I could see a change in her demeanor, her mental health. Like, she started breaking down all the things that were changing. And, that's when you're kind of like, next, let me go ahead and go to, I don't really know that that's for me. And then it began to be like, okay. So then I went to the Facebook group and I'll never forget. I sat on my couch in tears. And I'm going to keep this as PG as I can. But I looked at some of those photos and I'm like, not sure if this is a cussing one, but I'm like, there was no effing way. I looked at those photos and I'm like, these are not the same people. These are not the same people. And I looked at myself in the mirror, and the first thing is I like the look. I'm like, no, that, I'm doing everything. But then it was like, okay, you have been doing everything, but there were a couple of healing opportunities. I was like always one step forward, 15 back. And then it was the moment I sat on the couch and I was like, look here, someone just called you from another country in the middle of the night, another practitioner asking me for help. I gave them the answer. They went to their client, fixed it within 2 weeks. But then I was like, hold it, but it's not working for me. So I was like, something is not right. It's like the math is not mathing. So it was really one of those things. Like one day I woke up and I was like, I have to take him out. And I'm telling you, as soon as I decided, it was like, I may have decided on a Tuesday. I'm like, I wanted the surgery like yesterday. There was no waiting, but it was in the middle of this pandemic, all of the drama, all of that. And I was like, I need to have him out. Like once I knew in my heart and God was like, get him out. I was like, I want him out. And I was super stressed. I was looking to travel all over the world to get it done. Like I was desperate. And unfortunately, but fortunately, someone tested positive and they couldn't go to their appointment. So it was so quick. Like as soon as I set my mind to it, I finally got the appointment. It was like, I did the appointment. And then I was, my insurance was like, we're not really. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I don't even need you at this point, baby. We'll put it on the credit card. I'm not playing in games. So my insurance wanted to fight. I called them and I'm like, hey, I'll private pay. They called me back the next day. They're like, hey, if you want to private pay, we can get you in. I mean, I'm tongue-tied and emotional. It was life-changing for me. And what was so funny is I'm still in these streets trying to tell people how to be healthy with some silicone up here, just sucking the life out of me, right? Legit, these gummy bear boobs that are killing me from the inside out. When I look at photos of 2.5 years ago from today, I'm the same person, but different. I even had a close friend tell me, she's like, your energy changed. She's like, there was underlying anxiety, which it was true. I didn't even know it was there, right? The chronic constipation. Yes, it was stress. And yes, it was gut health, but it was also my body's like, we'd love to help you with your gut health, but we have silicone, right? The swollen lymph nodes that I always suffered with. My body was trying, my immune system was like, we can't help you, right? The mold allergy that was a sensitivity for me, it was my boobs. This is so funny. I literally have my breast implants in the garage and I pull them out every once in a while for an IG live. Because I'm like, this is how far I've come. But it's like all of the mold and the parasites, all of these things. And this is, I know for a lot of you, you're like, I like the look. I'm going to go ahead and scoop you guys up because we got the BBLs and things like that. I'm telling you right now, your body will begin to fight that. It will be a day later. It will be a week later. It took me 8 years to realize that the breast implants were killing me. I didn't realize it. Photos now, I'm two different people, not to mention just 25 pounds fell off. It was, my body was inflamed. Things that I just kind of normalized as, oh, it's fine. I felt healthy. Suddenly my world turned upside down. The parasite cleanse actually started to work because I had parasites in my breast implants. They were full of mold, candida, all of these things that I was just like, oh, I have a sensitivity. Well, yeah, you have a sensitivity. Yeah, you're going to wheeze sometimes. Don't be an idiot. Your body is like, your lungs are full of silicone. Like even to this point, 2.5 years later, I'm still doing some detoxing and dropping heavy metals. I'm still doing detoxing and actually, sometimes I'll get like a little bit of a rash, which I don't like to have the rash, but it lets me know there's still healing to be done. So explant has been huge for me. And I think it's something that, I don't want to say we, because I'm not part of we. Everybody wants this look now, right? We looking at all the social media and everyone's got the same butt, the same boobs. I just pray to God that the butt stays there and doesn't drop down to your ankles, because at some point your lymphatic system is going to try to purge those toxins. And I really, really think we're going to see an increase, because I've seen it already just with the Botox. Patients, oh, I don't know what's going on. Cool, let's talk about it. Well, what I notice is every time you get your Botox, you've got 6 weeks of headaches. Your body eats up the Botox. You got to roll it back, roll it back. Botox doesn't last forever. Where do you think it's going? In your body. Your body's trying to metabolize it. That's why you have to keep going back. As you could see, I could soapbox this one all day long because it's life-changing. And a lot of us don't know. I did not know when I got him, right? I just wanted a look. Everyone in fitness had him. I was healthy. It was no big deal. But then looking back, that really just catapulted a lot of autoimmune issues. And a lot of you right now already have a diagnosis. Some of you are so afraid to go to the doctor, you don't even really know what's going on. And then you went and got your upgrades. So I'm just saying, You start checking the research, start looking at some podcasts, listening to podcasts, doing the research and seeing like, did you have an exacerbation of symptoms after your Botox, after your BBL, after your this, after your that? And then when you start looking at those symptoms, I want you to look yourself in the mirror and be like, is this something that I'm willing to put up with the next 5, 10, 15 years, right? Are you having an exacerbation of symptoms once again? And is it something you're willing to tolerate?
The cosmetic procedures are killing us. Okay. Mm-hmm. The fact that the BBL is literally the most dangerous procedure that you can have, and nobody talks about that. The after effects, nobody talks about that. The literal toxins literal Botox is short for toxin. Why would you put that in? I mean, it's crazy to me. But when I say these things, it's like I'm the crazy one. But there is just no way that I would just gladly go on a Friday night and sign myself up to get toxins injected into my face. It's just crazy. But the amount of Black women that are doing this, it is outrageous. And so on this platform, I love to be able to talk about being a basic baddie like myself. Like, I'm going to be out here with as much natural, and this lipstick probably got some red dye in it. So judge your mama. I'll do like 80-20. I do like 80-20. I do the best that I can. Okay. But I'm going to do as best as I can using what I got, because when we start adding fillers and implants and all of the things, you just don't know how your body is going to react. And then, baby, it's too late once it's in there. I mean, it's not too late because you can obviously, have an explant, but Botox, you can't remove that once it's injected. So are these potential problems worth this? The vanity of it. I don't think so. But for
the aesthetic, it's like, is the aesthetic, sorry, I was going to say, like, is the aesthetic, going to help you achieve health and wellness? The aesthetic may give you the look, but now that you have the look and the face that you wanted, you can't think at work. You have brain fog, you're constipated, you have debilitating headaches, you have these migraines that don't allow you to show up and be a participant in your family. So now you have the look, but do you truly have quality of life? Not to mention, you'll need to do another Friday night session to get re-injected in 8 to 10 weeks because your body is trying to get rid of it.
And we're going to end. I'm going to have you share your contact info, because we could do this for hours. I see that already. But the mental health, because we've only really been talking about like physical and some emotional health, but the mental health issues that I'm just assuming, I haven't seen the studies on it, but the mental health issues that I assume are linked to the procedures, especially procedures that it's like it wears off. Even girls who get the lash extensions, they think that they are unattractive when those lashes start to fall off. Like, they feel like they need these lashes for people to, see them, for them to go out in public. And so just the what you're doing to your mental health, thinking that you have to show up, with this added whatever you're adding, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. So we got to do better. Once you know better, you got to do better. And our babies deserve us to do better, because your little girl is looking at you feeling like you need to have the weave down to your butt, or the implants, or the Botox, or the whatever it is, and so it goes so much beyond just the look. We trying to live our best life. So I know that you have the Hormone Restoration University. Tell us about that. Talk about the podcast, and how can we find you online and continue to tap in with Dr. LJ?
Yes. So online, I am definitely in those social media streets. It is a holistic hormone expert. That is my Instagram. That's my TikTok. That's our website. You can find podcast episodes there. We also have, thank you for mentioning, the Hormone Restoration Academy. And that is my baby. It is just like it says, the Restoration Academy. It is for anyone that is sick and tired of being sick and tired. You're bloated, you're constipated, you can't figure out your health. Your doctor said your hormones are okay, but you're having libido issues, the painful sex, your brain's not working. You just got on here and realized, oh no, the breast implants aren't working for me anymore. How do I heal my body? It is about restoring you and giving you the tools in the toolbox. It's about empowering you with 12 weeks of group coaching. You also get one-on-one deep dives. I love our program, which is very unique because we do wrap in functional testing. It is time for testing rather than guessing. I'll just throw this out here. People with heavy periods love to run to dim. If they have fibroids, they want to kill the estrogen. I'm telling you right now, I'm screaming it from the rooftops. Doing these random supplements are not serving you. In hormone restoration, we do the testing and we tell you what you need to do. We break it down. What do you need to be eating, right? Yes, there are going to be some, overall arching information, but you're going to also get that one-on-one deep dive so that you have these tools, because that 12 weeks of training, it's not just for 12 weeks. That's a lifetime of hormone training, different things, so that when something happens 3 years from now, you know exactly where you need to go, right? What tools you have, what's going on in your toolbox. So it is a lot of information. You also have community and just the support. Like I think you said in the beginning, a lot of people aren't talking about period health. I wasn't sitting around at a barbecue talking about my period, right? And when I did talk about it, my friends were like, oh God, LJ's having cramps again. But it was more than that. So the Hormone Restoration Academy is definitely my baby. I love to talk all things hormones. We go in gut health. We do all things functional medicine, right? Because I think we've got the conventional medicine down pat. We need to fill up that functional medicine toolbox. So if you guys are definitely interested, you can go to my website, you click work with me, go to hormone restoration, and then we can hop on a discovery call. We handpick people. I will say this a million times. It is not about the money. And you'll know that on my website, because you can't just go on there and jump into the program, right? It's about making sure we're in alignment, that we are working towards those same goals, and that I am able to best serve you.
Well, I appreciate your service today, baby. We have talked about it all. We went down some rabbit holes that weren't even on my notes. Whenever I am back in Arizona, I'm definitely going to have to hit you up, Dr. LJ, because we got to have some conversations offline. I can already tell that. I appreciate you so much. I have enjoyed this conversation. I know for sure my viewers, my listeners are absolutely going to want to tap in and continue learning from you. So thank you for being a resource for the Girl Stop Playing podcast. Thank y'all so much for tapping in, tuning in. Please don't be selfish though, sis. Make sure you share this episode with a friend, subscribe to the show, and follow my girl, Dr. LJ. I will catch y'all on the next episode.